The long and short of it, written by Bobbles. Chapter 32. Nocturnal Pike felt that things were going well. Great, even. A few days had gone by since Cut had officially joined the herd, and the three of them were living it up. She'd even only questioned Pike's unmannerly hobbies just once. Pike had completely ignored the question at the time, of course, and Cut hadn't brought it up again. That meant the matter was settled, right? Right? Regardless, today they found themselves starting the same way they did most days. Pike as the acting chef, with Enon and Cut trying to help out to varying degrees of success. Enon was fretting as he rummaged through the spice rack. Oh God, what spice did the teacher say went well with savory foods? Cut wasn't doing much better. I think I remember my mom always using bay leaves. Pike just rolled her eyes at the culinary impotency of these ponies. We're making hay bacon. Quick, just pass me the garlic and thyme. Enon did just that, and Pike sprinkled liberal amounts of both on the strips. There. That should be perfect. Removing the strips of the skillet, she evenly distributed them upon the 3 plates she had taken out. Ah, bacon and eggs, a staple of any breakfast. Turning around with the foodstuffs, Pike saw a sight that made her sigh. Enon had already pulled the hot sauce out. It wasn't even the authentic Testradian hot sauce, but the extra spicy variant. Enon, give yourself a break already. You are just not built to handle that kind of spice. When he replied, he didn't so much speak to Pike as he spoke to the bottle. Never. Besides, I told you if we're visiting your family for the holidays I need to train myself until I can handle your dad's home cooking. Passing him a plate, Pike watched with more than a little despair as he started adding sauce to it. And I've told you we don't use that kind of spice in all our dishes. It's not like you'll have to go hungry. The stallion just grabbed a forkful of the egged-up sauce and gave her a steely look. It's not about being hungry, it's about sending a message. A message that I can hang with my FFS parents. Shoving the eggs in his mouth, he began eating in earnest. Pike shook her head and turned to Cut, knowing that the only thing about to come out of Enon's mouth for the next 5 minutes were sounds of pain. So, anything interesting happened to you and Enon at work? Cut, not used to just letting a cold hurt himself, bless her heart, was constantly shifting her gaze to check on Enon as she answered. And not really, but Aunt Jargon hasn't said anything about how I smell like Enon and vice versa. Yet Pike could hear the sound of Enon jumping out of his chair and trotting in place behind her. Enon, just let yourself start doing laps. All you're doing by resisting is making it worse. Pike tried not to roll her eyes as she continued the conversation. You think she'll make a big deal out of it? Cut frowned, frustrated. It's not what Jargon herself will do, she heaved an exasperated sigh. It's what my entire family will do once Jargon tells them. Pike twitched an ear as she heard Enon make a beeline for the fridge, having once again lost the fight against the sauce. I'm sure it'll be fine. Nocturnal Pike, clutching a timer in her winkla, hit the start button. And go. The assembled guardsmen took off, sprinting down the track. Today was the mile run, and Pike had to make sure every pony was up to snuff. Normally she'd be running out there with them, but the usual pony who kept time was out sick. It turns out that standing in the cold and blowing snow for hours on end made you more likely to catch a cold. Who would have thought? Watching as the mares ran around the thankfully plowed track, a few things were becoming apparent already. For starters, night sky was already falling behind. You can do it, Poindexter. Pike could see Night roll her eyes from her spot beside the track, but she did start running a little faster. Nice. As she continued to watch her subordinates, the butt pony became aware of a pony approaching from her side. Turning to face the mare, but keeping an eye on the stopwatch, Pike saw she was a courier. As the courier reached her, she saluted. Sergeant Nocturnal Pike. Pike saluted back. Yes indeed. At ease putting our hoop down, the messenger mare reached into her saddlebags and pulled out a piece of paper. Telegram for you. It's marked urgent. Oh, but there was only one pony. Pike knew who still bothered to use telegrams. As the sergeant took it, the courier chuckled awkwardly. I didn't even know we still had telegrams. Tucking it under her wing, Pike said and turned back to the track. I wish we didn't. Hey! Don't think I didn't just see you trot an astral. It's a run, not a frolic. Only after all the mares had crossed the finish line did Pike dare to check the telegram, and it was exactly as she'd feared. Nocturnal business is taking me to Candlewood in the next few days. Stop. We're getting breakfast on Saturday. Stop. I'll be staying at the Castle Inn. Stop. See you at 12 p.m. sharp. Stop. Star Mattress. Stop. Sighing, she crumpled the paper up. Why can't Mom just call like a normal pony? At least then she could weasel out of it. Pike liked visiting her family occasionally, but seeing her mom was always the part she hated the most. Although she supposed she could just pretend she hadn't received the telegram, no, her mother would never go for that, and Pike would never hear the end of it come heart-swarming. Better to just go. But on the subject of parents, that reminded her of the chat Pike and Cut had earlier. Pike had to wonder how things were going on that front. It had been a slow month for J Jargon Justification. They pushed out a lot of fluff pieces about ponies getting ready for the holidays for the last several days. Nothing nearly as bombastic as when a Karen came to visit. Such is the news, she supposed. If sales dipped too much, she could always just have one of her mares make news out of something. That, or have him write another piece on winter fashion. She knew he'd whine about that, though. Speaking of, as she sat at her desk and looked out the glass walls, Jargon could see that very cold chatting away with her niece. They had been spending an awful lot of time together as of late. Did she finally? Huh? No way. Jargon loved her niece, but the idea she would ask some pony out. Preposterous. Although, Annan was definitely the type of firecracker that might have asked her. HMF, look at yourself. Jargon, spinning yarns like a bored house husband. The mare had no reason to speculate when she could just do this. Cut. She shouted, get in here. She couldn't help but chuckle to herself as her nervous niece leapt off of her chair and made a mad dash for Jargon's office. As she ran in, Cobb gave her best attempt at a salute. Yes, oh, I mean, Chief. Something in the room already smelled different, but Jargon wanted to be sure. Close the door. Cobb did so, looking confused the whole time. And ufely, the moment she did, Jargon knew that it was exactly as she thought. She could smell not one, but two extra ponies on that mare. Some ponies been snuggling. She planted her forehead on the desk and put on the most serious face she could. Cut, I need you to answer me honestly. Have you been snuggling that cold? Cut's alarmed look only further supported her theory. Why, you know, Chief, I am an adult, so I don't see how. I knew it. Jargon's shout made Cut jump, but she didn't care. This was the best news she'd heard in months. Does your mom already know? No, she doesn't, does she? Jargon didn't even give Cut the chance to answer. The guilty look on her face told her all she needed to know. You've got to give her a, no, actually I want to hear the sound of her voice when I tell her. I've got to get on the phone ASAP. She could already imagine a reaction, and it was going to be great. Out of habit, Jargon called out, projecting her voice through the closed door. Cut. I need you to make a call to. That's when she realized the problem with that. Wait, you're standing in front of me. Never mind. Cut. The poor mare looked thoroughly befuddled, and was just standing there in dumbfounded silence. Is it weird that I rely on my chief editor to make my calls? No. At least until I actually get myself a secretary. Picking up the phone, Jargon started punching in her sister's number. Hopefully she and Barely weren't busy. Cobb noisily cleared her throat. Armando, she's still here. Jargon glared at the mare and waved her off. Well, what are you waiting for? Permission. Get back to work. We'll be on the next train out. It was Thursday. And for Nocturnal Pike, it was a very annoying Thursday. It turned out that the mares in charge of records forgot to tell her that half your squad's first aid certifications had expired. So guess who got told she had to find a first aid instructor to teach them before the week was out? That's right, she did. Oh well, at least she was actually able to find one. Pike went ahead and signed the whole squad up, just in case. Except for herself, of course. All the squad leaders had their own certification that they renewed every year. Which was why Pike was going to spend a day in her office, checking every one of her squad's files personally. Keyword there being was what Pike was actually doing was making our way to the conference room. Apparently, some DayCorp petitioner had demanded to speak to her personally. Great, as if I needed that today. Arriving at the door, the guard on station saluted and pushed it open to let the sergeant inside. Taking a look around, Pike noted that it was a small and sparsely furnished room, with only a circular table, about 6 chairs, and one window. Seated in the chair opposite the entrance was an earth pony, and an older one at that. Her coat was a charcoal gray color, with a black mane that was starting to turn silver at the roots. Her first reaction upon seeing the butt pony was to simply grunt, and extinguish the cigar she had in her mouth. As Pike actually entered the room and made her way around the table, the older mare extended a hoof. So you must be Pike. Meeting the half bump, Pike spent a moment sizing her up. Sergeant Pike. As the Chestrel took the seat next to the earth ponies, the older mare gave a quick, dismissive glance before leaning back in her own seat like she owned the place. You're a lot shorter than I expected. And just like that, the meeting was already off to a bad start. The same professionalism that kept her scream internal allowed her to suppress her first instinct to sock the mare in the face. Might I ask why you're here, miss? She answered back through gritted teeth. Oh right, of course. Forgive me, J Jargon Justification at your service. The name jogged her memory immediately. This is the chief of Annan's paper. What the bulk could she want? As if to answer the question, the newsman continued. Listen, I'll cut to the chase. Tomorrow at 1 p.m., I need you at the Candlelit Candor office. Well, Pike could at least appreciate the frankness. Why? Can't tell you. Pike briefly glanced around the room to see if her squat was going to jump out and yell surprise. Unfortunately it seemed she would have no such luck. Is this mare for real? Does she seriously think I can just walk out and spend a day milling about somewhere just because some pony asked? So, you're going to be there, right? Oh sweet Luna, she does. Pike had a long career of dealing with pushy civilians, and this mare was triggering every one of her warning bells and then some. The difference this time though, was the fact that she couldn't just tell her to buck off and leave it at that. She had direct power over her stallion and her herb sister, so Pike needed to approach this with tact. Ma'am, I can't just spend a day off doing something on a whim. Surprisingly she adjusted her posture, leaning in to be more attentive toward her. Seems like she's now interested in negotiating. You're not just doing something. You're doing something vital. Listen, I need the guard at my office tomorrow and that guard needs to be you. Just what is she getting at? If need be I can see about sending a detachment. Jargon pounded her hoof on the table. I don't need some guards, I need you. The Testrel resisted the urge to rest her forehead on her hoof and sigh. It's like talking to a wall. Pike barely suppressed a frown. Look, this would be a lot easier if you'd just tell me what you needed me for. Was there a threat? Are you in danger? Why? Shouldn't the fact a respected citizen is requesting your presence be enough? This time, Pike didn't resist the urge. No, it was not. Jargon looked perplexed and somewhat offended before she glanced around the room and thought. She did it for about a minute or so, one which Pike simply abided by. Aha! She said suddenly, let's say, I have evidence of a snuggling syndicate, right here in the guard. She accented each word with a wave of her hoof, like she was framing a headline. But the pauses made it sound like she just came up with it on the spot. And I need your help to confirm it before I blow the whistle. There's a reason we haven't had to print a retraction in 20 years. Does she really think I'll buy that? Ma'am, look. Jargon leaning, hushing her voice slightly. It's about Cut, okay? And it's really important that you be there. Pike had a sudden flashback to what Cut had told her a day ago, and her worries about how her family might react. The Earth Pony's face hardened. Now, either you can agree to this horsey-puss story now, or I can take it to the princess and bombard her with it until she orders you to come. But as if Princess Luna would buy that. But that's when Pike remembered that Princess Luna wasn't on duty right now, her sap of an older sister was. The same one who got fooled by that oversized net. She probably actually would have a formal investigation launched, even when Jargon's story turned out to be just that, a story. And a formal investigation was something Pike did not want to bucking deal with. Alright, fine. I'll be there, she answered, suppressing a grimace. Jargon smiled, and leaned back again. The smug satisfaction radiated off her like the heat of the sun. I knew you'd see reason. Yeah, reason, hoping to the stars. That's all she wanted. Pike got out of her chair. If that's all, then I'll be going. I have some paperwork I need to file for tomorrow, and Jargon. She made a sound akin to him. Pike glared at the mare. If this is a waste of my time, the best you can expect to face is a fine for wrongful use of guards. Time. She smiled and let out some kind of half-laugh, half-wheeze. Heh. Good thing it'll be well worth it. See you at 1. Pike left the room without a second glance, closing the door behind her. Some pony would come to see her out, she was sure. Bucking unbelievable, this better be important. As she started making her way down the hallway, she was stopped by a voice to her left. I thought for sure you were going to bite her head off, Sarge. Hey, that sounded like Specialist Mulberry. Pike sternly greeted the mare as she turned to face her. Why aren't you with the others? I distinctly remember ordering the whole squad to get recertified. The mare, colored the same as her name, saluted. Ma'am, I got my certification last month, so Sepulcher put me on assignment. Mom. Grrrr. Pike didn't like Sepulcher going around her like that, but she supposed in this case it was fair. Mulberry was her field medic. Of course, her first aid certificate was extremely up to date. So, Pike relaxed, glad the mare wasn't just playing hooky. The specialist chuckled. For a moment I thought I was going to have to make use of my first aid training. Why? Was there an incident? Pike looked around for any sign of some altercation she could be talking about, but the sergeant saw no sign of one. What for? Mulberry pointed behind Pike, and following her gesture, she saw a departing Jargon. I heard most of what you two were talking about. I thought you were going to start a fight when she called you short. And then again when she accused us of hosting a snuggle syndicate. Pike shrugged. Didn't seem worth it. Mulberry seemed taken aback by the comment. No offense, Sarge, but I'd never have thought I'd hear you say that. For a moment, Pike was going to deny it, but the mare had a point. Jargon not only attacked her pride as a mayor, but also as a leader. Even though it was a fabrication, she still implied a Snuggle syndicate could run under Pike's nose without her noticing it. Which is something past Pike would have absolutely at least cussed her out for. I suppose I have mellowed out. That little voice inside her head scoffed. You're going soft, Pike frowned. Things change, specialist. Things change. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video,